Thank you for watching, eh? I appreciate it. Cowboy Jim, Fort Mac. On the last video, I started out to explain a little about the Friday evening performance of Cole Martin, my grandson, and down in Sylvan Lake at a bar called Buck Wilds, spelled with a Z on the end. And and I got there about 20 minutes before my grandson and his lady, wonderful lady, and they have done everything they could to help me feel older because come June or so, I don't know the exact date, but sometime around there, I'll be a great granddad. And I find that horrifying because until I hit 71, I hadn't even realized that I'd gotten a bit older than how I acted when I was 40. And I mean, my dad, he always said, one thing I noticed about you, Jim, I wished he had called me son, but he just called me Jim. He said, you don't let wisdom and common sense interfere with what you want to do. Well, I didn't, haven't, won't um, let that happen. Um, but I also didn't let the passing of time interfere because I did not even notice the passing of time at all. Well, I I I did for the first time in my life when a 31-year-old lady said, uh, "You're not young," and I thought, "You got to be kidding." Then I thought, "I'm 71 years old," and so in actual truth, the lady was right. Uh, who knew? But I'm not young. But anyways, we're going to concentrate. And so I went to this bar in Sylvan Lake, Buckwild, and I walked in. I sat down at the bar, and I asked them, um, you know, what was happening tonight. And lady behind the bar said, "Well, uh, there's a guy coming to sing," and she said, I said, "Is that him out there getting out of that truck?" She said, "Yes, it is." I said, "Well, what's his name?" And she said, "Well, it's Cole Martin." And I said, "Is he any good?" And she said, "Well, we keep having him come back, and the place fills up when he does." And she said, "Yes, he's good." And so I was kind of smiling at the guy sitting next to me because he and I had already had the discussion about my grandson was coming to sing, and uh, and my grandson walked in, saw me sitting there, and he just came straight to me, and we hug. In our family, we hug. We don't hug other men's wives, but trust me, we hug each other. Um, that sort of thing. We never let we never say goodbye to each other. My sons, I have two, Big Scott, Big Joe, and four grandsons. Uh, uh, Good kids. Well, they're not children anymore, but they're good. And as I've mentioned before, a step grandson. Last I heard, he was living on the streets in Vancouver, and that's a tough life for anyone. I never thought of this before, but he lives on Hastings Street, downtown Vancouver. I have a giant heart for street people. I'm going to have to pray about this because it strikes me that my grandson, step grandson, but my grandson nonetheless, um, living on a street in downtown Vancouver, could well be why I care so much about street people. Could be. I'm not sure. I'll think about it. Anyways, um, that man sitting at the bar with me, we went outside. You're not allowed to smoke indoors anymore. And some places you're not allowed to smoke outside. I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's the way it is, I'm told. Anyways, he and we bonded, and God does these strange things where He will put me in a place circuitous for me to get there, and an orchestrating of my time, of me, and other people that He wishes for me to speak with. And that man, I know his name, but I shy from using people's names on my YouTube stuff, um, just in case there's an inflection that turns out to not be appreciated. Anyways, that guy and he was a cabinet maker using stainless steel in a metal fab shop. I was a cabinet maker in my own shop, cabinet shop, making cabinets out of wood, real wood, and it is interesting that God gives me such an opportunity to speak with people, to find a way to gently say, "Hey, can I tell you my story about my 18-year-old son called My Son's Miracle?" And I usually use that in answer to the question that people have when I suggest to them that I have a YouTube video, and they ask what's the content, and so I just say I could sum it up this way, and I tell them that story of how my 18-year-old son um, was knocked off a catwalk at work, fell 18, 20 feet onto his head. Um, Surgeons had no hope for him at all. A broken neck, crushed skull, internal bleeding in his head, just terrible. But the next morning, um, surgeon in Calgary said, "Take him back to Olds." They were full anyways, but no one even thought my son would live. Um, I have told people for the longest time that my son woke up in the morning, took the junk out of his arms, walked in, used the washroom, but hey, I was wrong. My son and I talked, and when he came back to the Olds Hospital, it would be about supper time on the Tuesday, the day on which he was injured. Um, they didn't even put intravenous in. He was in a coma. No one thought he would live. So why try to keep him alive? But my son woke up perfectly healed, completely healed. A broken neck healed, crushed skull healed. And I asked my grandson, because I was with my grandsons on the Friday night when Cole Martin was singing. And I said, "Has your dad ever had a headache?" And he said, he didn't think so. He had never heard his dad say that he ever even had a headache. And so I cannot help but be what I am I can refine what I am to make what I am to be more plausible, to be more easy to listen to. And, but I am the way I am. And I choose to believe the way I do because God has proven to me time and time again. I have said in the past that I do not have enough faith to be an atheist, agnostic, whatever. To me, it takes less faith to believe in something as opposed to nothing. Okay. You notice how I can wander far afield. Oh, gee. Anyways, I had such a wonderful time on Friday watching my grandson, and what a joy. The next morning, go and have breakfast with him before he went to work, and then carry on my weekend and back to visit my son. I have two sons, Big Scott, Big Joe, and I just don't hardly ever run into Joe um, unless it's a family deal because he's on the road all the time running truck, and I'm mostly in the mine all the time working. And so we'll have to make a few changes and try to spend more time with Joe. He is my son that is in the video, is the video that is called My Lost Son. And that was about Joe getting lost in the mountains, how God orchestrated my 7-year-old son to get lost and for he and I to step out into a clearing miles from where he had been lost. And at the same moment in time, my 7-year-old stepped into a clearing on the trail. Now I was following him hard because mountains have mountain lions, grizzly, so on, black bear, all those things that would enjoy eating a 7-year-old easy picking meal. And God saved my son. And we met in the middle of the clearing, sun shining, blue sky. I wrapped my arms around my 7-year-old boy. He is my son, yes. Both my boys, they're my sons, yes. They're also my brothers. Because we choose to believe very similarly about the Creator. That's why I do my YouTube videos, so that perhaps by seeing what God has done, honestly done, in my life, you may find occasion to revisit the possibility that there is a Creator. I've seen so much about God, and I can do nothing but believe in Him. And I'm glad of it. I'm glad for the life's experiences that have separated me from my potential ambitions to, oh, live. Because the life I live now, I am more attentive to the Creator than I was when I was trying to save my ranch, marriage, all those things. So I'm not, shall we say, nearly as distracted as I once was. But that's all part of living. So God bless you. I hope you found this a little entertaining. Uh, Pray that your curiosity may well be tweaked and you may once again revisit the potential that there is a creator and his son. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you.